Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy MJ. Welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. My guest today is the chef and owner of one of the most sought after and popular pizzerias in all of Brooklyn, and I dare say the world, Mark Iacono. He was born and raised in Carroll Gardens. He grew up fully immersed in Italian American culture. He was a self described regular neighborhood kid. He enjoyed his grandmother's cooking, playing center field, and trips to the local candy shop with his father. Having a passion to work with his hands, Mark excelled in shop class while in high school, and then as an adult, he spent many years in marble fabrication, a trade at which that he's been described as unbelievable. In 2006, without any experience in the culinary arts or restaurant business, Mark opened his now iconic pizzeria, Lucali. Its location is in the very same storefront of the candy store he used to frequent with his father when he was a child. Drawing his inspiration from his grandmother, and despite never having studied pizza making of any kind, he's manned the oven 6 nights a week, making perfectly crisp pies that the New York Times called matchless and high end dining unlike any other in New York. Lucali has become a BYOB destination for wine collectors. The front window is lined with empty Burgundy bottles, Bordeaux, Super Tuscans, and there's even a 1971 Tâche in that window. The restaurant has guests like the likes of Al Pacino, Paul McCartney, David Beckham, and of course Jay-Z and Beyonce, who famously skipped the Oscars and went to Locali for pizza instead. Not the Oscars, the Grammys.
I didn't want to correct you.
Listen, I'm not sure. Like, this is real. Like, my listeners know. Did MJ just? I mean, yeah, he did.
You did.
Mark's wood-fired pies have become so popular, in fact, that he expanded his business in 2013 with a Miami location, and even more recently, in the summer of 2021, he opened an equally sought-after slice shop, and we'll get into that for you guys from around the country who don't know what a slice shop is, and it's called Baby Luke's. Mark has appeared in New York Magazine, Insider. He's been on the Today Show, Late Night with Seth Meyers, and on Netflix, Ugly Delicious. He also has hosted 3 seasons of Thrillist Really Dough series. Welcome, Mark. Anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you for having me.
Well,
And
thank you
again,
for being here,
how
man.
did you know I played center field? Where'd you guys get that one
Dude,
from?
I don't do the research.
All right.
I don't know how. I just I ask for stuff and then it magically appears in my inbox.
Can we make a quick toast and
Yeah,
start drinking?
yeah. Cheers, man. Thanks for coming
Cheers.
on, man.
Cheers.
Super psyched. We're cheersing over to the producer in the studio today, the lovely Ronnie. Um, so, um,
Very nice, by the way.
yeah. So
Ronnie, not the wine.
yeah, she's awesome. I know. So we're just drinking. We're sipping on a little Super Tuscan. It's Radini Tenuto. I'm not even gonna try and say this. It's a Toscano. It is a Sangiovese, Merlot, and Cab blend. Because Mark is Italian, and I need to drink more Italian wine.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
quite
yeah.
frankly.
Right.
So let's start. Let's start at the beginning. You were born and raised in the Carroll Gardens section of Brooklyn, right?
Correct.
The New York Times said that you called you a live and die neighborhood guy. What was it like growing up in a neighborhood back in the day? Like,
It was amazing. I listen. I had an amazing childhood. Very adventurous. You know, growing up in, even in Carroll Gardens, it was phenomenal. You know, I wouldn't change it. Grew up poor. There wasn't, not a lot of, the neighborhood had its one percenters,
mm-hmm.
and predominantly it was a blue collar neighborhood. And we just, the whole neighborhood was our playground.
So, like, do you have siblings? Like, how many are in your family? Your siblings?
I have 3 brothers. I have 2 older, 1 younger. Um, my oldest just passed.
Sorry to hear that.
No, thank you. And they were a big part, growing up, especially with me because I was kind of like, we were all, me and my younger brother, I think we're 16 months apart, and the one older than me, 2 years, and my oldest brother, was another 2 years. So we were kind of close in age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at a very young age, I mostly hung out with my younger brother, and then, as I got older, you know, I started leaning more towards my, you know, the second oldest. He was taking me to my first clubs and everything.
Right.
While my younger brother was too young to go, and that was it. And then I want to say at around the age of 18, 20, um, we all hung out together. You know,
Very cool.
I was hanging out with the older guys. I was hanging out with the younger
Hmm.
guys.
So, a lot of fights or just brothers that got along? Like
No, it
four
was
boys is a
bad. It was
handful.
bad. My mom had it. My dad died when I was 10 years old,
Mm.
and there was fighting, but after he passed and we got older, the fighting got really bad. Where my uncles had to step in, and you know.
I don't. Uncle discipline must be some other type of
Yeah,
discipline.
yeah, yeah. There was the one that it was sat down and talked to us, and then there was the one that with threatened our lives. Yeah, and it got ugly, and then utensils started getting involved, and pipes and all that stuff. Yeah, but again, you know, the relationships with my brothers, oh God, they're everything to me.
That's awesome. That's
And the fighting just stopped at a certain age.
Yeah.
I think once we hit once I hit, I would venture to say 19, it just stopped.
That's a long time.
Yeah, because 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
And 20 today. I mean, 20 back then is like 30 today.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah, and we grew up fight. The whole thing. Like I'll see you at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
After school. Like that was like once a week.
Yeah. Like that's no joke. Like I think about and I'm not. There's a book.
And I mean I remember like shit. 200 people showing up to a fight.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah, that was the thing. Like it was literally.
I remember one fight that took place in the neighborhood. And again, growing up, now these guys are some of my best friends now. But two corners down, they were the enemy.
Yeah.
And then when someone else came into the neighborhood from a different neighborhood, we teamed up with them, and but that's how it was. And I remember this. One of their guys got one of my guys,
Mhm.
and then we got one of their guys, and then I remember that one night there was like the corner we hung out, like a whole union showed up. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
One
yeah.
of my guys, one of the guys we beat up, like his uncle was the president of a union, and if you didn't show up on that corner to throw me and my guys a beating, like you ain't working. It was like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's so interesting because I think that's just like. But I love your love for your neighborhood. Like you said, you wouldn't change a thing. Like I believe everything that we grow up makes us who we are. But I mean that's probably a tougher, upbringing. Not that it was bad than most people, because I think people are soft, right?
Listen, but with everything I'm telling you, I mean, it really wasn't. There are neighborhoods where it's a lot tougher.
Sure.
And, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I grew up in this, like I was, no. But there was some hairy moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I didn't walk around the streets having to watch my back.
Right.
It wasn't like that.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's not like a crime-ridden neighborhood. It's just the neighborhood.
We put up our hands and had a drink after we were done.
Yeah.
Win, lose, or draw.
Yeah. Yeah. So your mom
in my later years, it got a little hairy.
Okay. Yeah. So what was kind of like you talk a lot about in other interviews about your grandmother kind of being an inspiration for getting in the restaurant business. What kind of meals did like your mother, your grandmother prepare for you growing up?
Oh God. I mean, I think the most important meal was that, we would never call it pasta. That was too fancy. We called it macaroni.
Right.
And and no matter what version of pasta it was called macaroni. You know, it wasn't fusilli or rigatoni. It was macaroni.
I love that.
Um, unless you had spaghetti, then it was spaghetti or lasagna. Um, or stuffed shells or raviolis. But that whole fusilli,
Right.
no, macaroni.
Capitelli.
Yeah, no, macaroni. Um, I think that was the most, that's the meal that sticks out most in my mind. Every Sunday, it was like, it was like church at my house.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So
And
the famous Sunday gravy.
and you don't miss mass.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You don't miss, uh, you know. You didn't show up. It was always like anywhere from 15 to 30 people. But they were the 15 regulars, and those regulars, you show up.
Yeah.
I mean, I never went. I had this conversation the other day. I've never been the only sport probably. I've never been to a professional football game. Why? Football's always
Oh, it's on Sunday. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
I played my football. Latest games were 12 o'clock. The games started anyway 8, 10, 12, and boom, right home, Sunday dinner. Eating dinner, watching the games on TV with my brothers, my uncles, cousins, Yep.
Does that tradition continue with your family?
It's kind of been put on hold. Things are kind of a little weird right now.
Okay.
What happened? I don't even know if you want to get into this. Kind of sad story, but a beautiful story at the same time.
Yeah. Listen, it's the people. It's not about wine. It's about getting to know you, and
COVID.
Yep.
We couldn't gather at the house, so and then in November I lost my uncle who passed to COVID, and then in January, this was my grandmother's thing, and when my grandmother passed, everyone was like, what happens with Sunday dinner? She was the old, and my mom just stepped in and took it over, and it continued for another 18 years. She passed in January, and we're still in the middle of this COVID thing, and I don't think my family, we haven't regrouped yet, and we're just trying to get a hold on everything that we've been through over the last year.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna fall in my lap,
Okay.
me and my sister-in-law. And I told you to set. One of the things was my mom. We had her in home hospice.
Okay.
And and this was I think second week in January, and for no other reason. I don't even think it had anything to do with my mom. My sister-in-law was like fed up. That we didn't do Sunday dinner. We haven't had it. The cousins haven't seen each other, and you know what? She's like, I don't care. I'm doing it. Whoever comes. If they don't come, we understand. And that day, everyone showed up. And again, especially with my mother. If you didn't show up on Sunday dinner, all hell would break loose. And, my mom, pretty much incoherent. Everyone came. Happened to, everyone showed up. More than usual. The cousins from Jersey came in, and it was like, wow, we had a packed house. And in between I'm going to call it pasta. Now, in between the macaroni, like the way we do our Sunday dinner, we have the macaroni first, take a little break, have the meat and salad and all that other stuff, the meatballs, barjol. And in between that break, I usually go outside and have a cigarette. And before I went back downstairs, I says, let me go up and see if we had a girl staying with us, see if she wanted me to bring her up a dish of macaroni. And I see my mom there, and I was like, that's it. She ain't. And I called everyone from up downstairs, like, yo, you all need to get up here. And everyone came up, and in between Sunday dinner break, my mom passed with her whole family. You know, her brother holding one hand, her sister holding another, all her grandchildren, her kids. Everyone was there.
Yeah.
You know, so it was kind of like a.
That is actually very beautiful. That's a beautiful way
Yeah,
to transition.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
and and I don't know, we don't know if she waited for that or I don't know. You know, it's just like this as much as I wish she was still here with us,
Mm-hmm.
there's this, I don't know, what's the word you use for this?
You know,
Is it serendipity?
yeah, serendipitous.
Yeah.
You know, I had a similar situation with
'Cause that's what my mom lived for.
Right.
Sunday dinner,
right,
and
like
the family
like
together.
people say, like my mother, I put her through hospice, and she was hanging on, and the hospice nurse said, he's like, you know, is there anybody she hasn't talked to? You know, like, you know, and my mother, her best friend was my aunt. They used to talk every morning, and my aunt couldn't deal with my mom passing
I
away.
have another crazy story about my aunt, but go ahead.
And you know, I said to my cousin, I was like, you got to have Mary call her, you know, and then like she passed the next day. But like they say, like, and for your mom, probably like that, like everybody had their macaroni, she was good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned your aunt dealing with your mom. My aunt, last week of my mother's life, insisted on staying at the house with her. And, my mother really didn't speak, she really couldn't talk. But my aunt, just in conversation with her, like another, one of the things that my grandmother made, something that we grew up on, had it at least once a week, was peas and macaroni.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom just talking to my aunt just talking to my mom, just, again, she would just lay there and just say things to her. And she was like, yeah, I'm making peas and macaroni. You want a dish? And my mother opened her eyes and said yes.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt, didn't take her serious. And my aunt made it because that's what she was making for herself. And, my mom, who I don't think ate, it was a week,
Mm-hmm.
sat up, was coherent for an hour,
Mm-hmm.
ate her peas and macaronis, and boom, went back down. And like I rushed there, and I was like, hey, Mom, I heard you ate. And she was like, yep. It was pretty much yes and no
Mm-hmm.
answers from her. And another one of my grandmother's famous dishes was spaghetti with crab sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And joking around, I just said to my Mom, what do you want for lunch tomorrow? She was like, spaghetti and crabs. And I was like, oh, okay. And, I didn't think she was going to, because she was getting worse every day. And I said, you know what, I'm making it. My aunt's here. My cousins were coming by to visit. And I said, let me make Grandma's spaghetti and crabs. And I made it. And she got up the next day.
Mm.
And she ate it. And she ate it, and she went, back to... she complained I put too much red pepper. And after that meal, like, I was always taking my mom to the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
Once, twice a week prior to her, them telling there's nothing more we can do. And I would get her out of the wheelchair. I was like, all right, you ready to stand up? You ready to dance with me? And she would get out of the wheelchair and, like, I'd hold on to her and was like, we'd shuffle and I'd put her in the car. And, here's a woman that's been lying in a bed for 2 months. And after she ate the pasta, the spaghetti and crabs, joking around, I was like, I was like, Ma, you want to sit in your chair? She was like, yep. I was like, what? Yep. We slid the chair over. She sat in it. And joking around, I said, hey, Ma, I was like, what movie you want to watch? She was like, Shrek. I was like, okay. But she used to watch that with her grandchildren.
Yeah, yep.
That lived downstairs. And then I was like, anything else? She's like, Ottoman. Now, this is a woman that we haven't, It's like, okay. And this was a Saturday. And then joking around with her. I said, Ma, you want to dance? She was like, yep. And I was like, all right. I walked over. I was like, all right, put your arms around my neck. You know the routine. And she put her arms around my neck, stood up. Again, after being in bed for 2 months, I'm out of bed. She danced with me for about a minute. You know, gave a little groan. She was in pain. I put her back in the bed, and then the whole Sunday dinner incident happened. And
Mm.
it was just I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's those moments,
Yeah.
and they're magical, and you know.
Let's go. Let's
But
talk
we're gonna,
about like, yeah, yeah.
but that's a deep dive. He's like,
Mhm.
people are like, you're not even talking about wine. You haven't even got the pizza yet. So let's talk about. You originally had a career in construction, marble and like granite and all that tile and stuff. Like, tell me about.
Marble granite fabrication. Actually did, you know, in 92, 93, I had a restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. So, I mean, you mentioned, you know, so I wasn't that, you know,
You weren't.
but it was a sports bar.
Oh, okay.
No pizza. Yeah.
So I mean, no this, but like frozen wings, is everything just go in the fryer,
No,
or
no,
you made
we,
it?
we had a full menu.
Really?
Yeah. Double cut pork chops.
Damn.
Yeah. You name, God, we had maybe 4 pasta dishes, steak au pois, and then we had, you know, the chicken wings and the burgers too.
Now, were you cooking there, or did you have a chef working for
The
you?
chefs, you know, I would get in the kitchen a little and like
Okay.
they'd throw me out. Go get behind the bar and bartend.
So, 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 and so that was like for like 2 years. You said like 91, 92.
I did that. I think it was, you know, me, my 3 brothers. There was the 4 of us, and my uncle opened that bar together. You know, my older brother signed a lease. He wanted, you know, us to do something together, and you know, and my uncle who was, I had 2 uncles that were like father figures in my life, and he was one of them. And so the 5 of us opened up a sports bar, very successful. But I think I was 21,
Oh.
you know, and my oldest brother just bought us out. Yeah, leave it at that.
So,
I learned a lot of lessons
okay.
there, you know, what not to do,
Uh huh.
and you know how to.
Was this also like in your neighborhood, or was
Yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah, yep, yep, yep.
Okay, went in Carroll Gardens. Okay.
Yep.
So I'm thinking like with working with marble fabrication, like that's very artisanal,
Mhm.
very hands-on. What similarities do you see in that, and how you're able to transition into making artisanal, and by artisanal, I don't mean like fancy smancy, but just like the artist, like the craftsmanship of making that perfect like margarita. Like, did you see any parallels or any lessons you learned from?
Um, I think it's just my, I don't know if you would call it personality. Um, Whenever I did something, like you know, they used to joke at the marble shop, like, "Hey, Michael, when is it going to be done?" And they were referring to Michelangelo. You know, like, you know, I would make sure it was perfect. You know, and it had to be. My name was on it. You know, and kind of put myself in a weird position. Like I kind of became like the hot shot, and you know, so what happens is, you know, I didn't want the guys like making fun. Like we would break each, you know,
Breaking the walls,
yeah,
yeah.
you know, break each other's chops. Yo, yeah, you did a great job there, yeah. And like I never wanted to hear that, and I always wanted to impress my boss. And I think in opening up the pizzeria, um, you know, 'cause I was really good at what I did as far as like you know, I was like top in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the local shops, they were all trying to grab me, and it was at a very young age. Um, And believe it or not, like you know, growing up, these baseball teams, like the companies in the neighborhood would sponsor teams. And
Mm-hmm.
I forget a guy, Joe McGuire. I forgot who I was working. I was working for my uncle at the time, his marble shop, but it was out in Jersey. And he was like, "Yo, I heard you do some, you know, at a baseball game." He approached me. My team was playing his 4-0 marble, and like he kind of like poached me, you know. And at a very young age, I think I was like 18 years old. And, you know, when I go into this shop and there's all these old Italian men that
Yeah.
have been doing this their whole lives. And I came in and I was like, they're like, "We've never seen someone do work like that before."
Wow.
And I was actually teaching these older guys, you know. You know what it is? It's just I'm very good with my hands.
Got it.
You know, even at a very, very young age, like my parents thought I was weird. You know, I was taking things apart, putting them back together, you know, figuring out, you know, I can't spell for shit, but they asked me to build something,
Yeah,
you know,
but
show
people,
me a P&L, and I'm like, what is that? You know?
but people don't realize that there's so much intelligence in your hands. Like literally, that's like how we learn is with our hands, and it's very highly. It takes, like you said, like to have that innate ability to take something apart, put it back together, to craft, like with marble, like this marble's like that's expensive stuff, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean,
Yeah. And like I said, so, you know, it was my company at the time. I mean, we were doing all you know, we were a small boutique shop, but we were doing I think I did like 7 jobs in 740 Park Avenue, which was the most exclusive. You know, I did work for Frank Sinatra. Those were our clients. You know, and you know, so we didn't mess around.
Yeah.
You know, and was it? But I think as far as the pizza goes, like a lot of that has to do. Like I said, I'm not a chef, but I mean, if I knew how to spell it, well, you know, I'd be a food critic. You know,
Yeah.
I mean I think that's more my specialty.
Yeah.
Like, you know, every time I go out to dinner, my friends are like, so what do you think, Mark? You know, and they're waiting for me to pick it apart.
Right.
And and I think, you know, I think where it like, and I've helped a lot of chefs. Like again, I can't make rice. I really can't. I don't know how to make rice. And but like you show me how to make something, and I'm gonna make it better.
Yeah.
You know, or like a lot of chefs, like I was like, you know what, more of this, less of that. What did you put in this? What's this flavor I'm getting? I don't even know how to identify it. You know, well, like, this is okay. A little bit less of that and a little bit more of this. I'm more like an equalizer.
Gotcha.
You know.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So how did you? So it was a candy shop. This was the store that your dad used to go to, take you to. How did you come upon securing that location? Like how'd that happen? And then like what you said. You just said one day you was like, I'm gonna open a pizzeria. Like how did this happen?
Um, Me, you know, I love pizza, and growing up in all these pizzerias in Brooklyn, and you know, I always remember sitting there, um, eating this pizza, and I'd be like, if again at a young age, I wish they had more of this, less of this. You know, it would make this pizza so much better if the crust was this way. You know, like so and so made a great crust, and this guy had an amazing sauce, and that guy had amazing cheese, and I was like, if you put those three together, you'd have an amazing pizza. Um, as far as you know, the lease, I signed the lease not knowing what I was going to open,
Oh wow.
and how that all came about was over a cup of coffee. Saturday afternoon, I go to the cafe to get a cup of coffee. The location I have right now is Louis Candy Store.
Okay.
Again, my parents grew up in that store. My dad took me, and it was a big part of my childhood. You know, I'd buy my baseball cards there, or you know, whatever.
Bazooka Joe.
Bazooka Joe, they had the penny candy, the
Yeah.
whole, you know,
Yep.
yeah, all about it, yeah.
Yep.
And every time I would drive by the store, I would see it was like open sporadically. You know, the gates were always down, you know, or half up. And one Saturday afternoon, I go for a cup of coffee, and who happens to now Louis had passed away,
Okay.
and his wife and son were doing it for like 2 years. And you know, I go for this cup of coffee, and I see Rosemary, who is Louis's wife, and there with all the old ladies sitting down, you know, having coffee. And you know, I went and I said hello to all of them. A lot of them were my grandmother's friends. And I asked, I was like, Ro, you know, what's going on at the store? Every time I drive by, it's never open. You know, and she's like, Mark, we're renting out the space. We're no longer going to do it. And I was like, you know, I was like, you know, I was like, all right, you know. And she had mentioned that someone was coming to look at it on Monday. And you know, and I felt terrible. I was like, wow, I can't believe Louis is closing down. Got my coffee. Um, Went back to the table, said goodbye to all of them. Um, and as I'm walking out, I don't, I always thought it wasn't proper to do what I did. But you know what? As I'm walking out, I remember stopping in the doorway. And I turned and I went back over to her and I was like, bro, listen, if things don't work out, let me know. I might be, on Monday, let me know. I might be interested in the store. And, and that was it. And I left. If people knew where to find me on a Saturday afternoon, and that was at my uncle's barbershop, I get there and, which was a few blocks away.
Mm-hmm.
And about a half hour later, the phone rings at the barbershop. So someone's looking for me. My aunt hands me the phone, and it's her son, Anthony. I was like, who never called me before. I knew him.
Right.
And I don't even know how he got my phone number. And he was like, yo, I just spoke to my mom, and she told me you were interested in the place, and, we would love to have you take it over. And that was it. I was like, all right, listen, I'll come meet you in an hour. Is that okay? And we'll talk. And I went down there and met with him, and, next thing I know, I'm signing a lease. I got $5,000 to my name. And, I was thinking of my kid brother at the moment, having him take the store over.
Okay.
To make some
Yep.
extra money. He
Mm-hmm.
was a carpenter, union carpenter, had 5 kids, all on, 5 and younger. And I figured maybe him and his wife can make some extra money, And then, I don't know, I just started, when I was in there, and now I'm in Louis' candy store for the first time on the other side of the counter, where Louis always was, or Anthony, or Rosemary. And now I'm in a back room that I didn't know existed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm behind the scenes, and my wheels just started turning. And it really started off was I love to build, I love to create.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole life I was building for someone else, I was creating for someone else. And I don't, and I just wanted to start building and creating. I'm in love with that era, the 20s, the 30s, because I am into architectural design and all
Sure.
that stuff, especially, and I appreciate it. And I started seeing what was behind the walls and behind the counters, and and was like, and I just started building, not knowing what I was going to do.
Mm.
I ripped out Louis' candy store.
Wow.
Which something I didn't want to do.
Right.
But here I am, because it really was not in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think there was any choice. And I just started building it. I was thinking diner, I don't know. I don't know. And then it just hit me, pizza. And I built out the location. People are like, wow, this place is so old. I was like, no, this place is brand new. Nothing in here is original to it.
Right.
You stood in the cellar, literally, you saw all the way up to the 3rd floor.
Mm.
I ripped everything out. And people can't believe that. I was like, yeah. And I wanted to build, and I wanted to do it the way the craftsmen did it back. Like, there's no sheetrock. I did plaster work, and I put up that tin ceiling, and I laid those floors. I face nailed them. I wanted to do it the old school way. I wanted to be more like a movie set.
Yeah.
And it turned out pretty good.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into all things pizza.
You need to cut me off because I have long stories.
No, the stories are great.
Right.
We'll be back in a few seconds, everybody. Mark, we'll be back with more Mark.
Bye, guys.
Okay, we're back. So, man, I can appreciate that story. My grandfather was a mason, and my dad did, he did mason work and heating and air conditioning until he got a job at the post office. But like, my dad built us an in-ground pool and our built brick, cinder block. Him and his brother. So, I really can appreciate it. So I kind of, and at one point I wanted to be an architect, but I wasn't good enough at math. So I get your sense of, the awe of architecture and I love all those old that I love brownstones. Like I live in Jersey,
Yeah.
but they're just like shit. These brownstones, like and a brownstone in Brooklyn versus one in Baltimore down in Camden. I mean, I'm that guy who's like, oh my God, you see that little.
I purchased, my family purchased our first brownstone. It got condemned, had to be torn down.
Mm.
And I was like, fuck, I've always wanted to own a brownstone. And I think I'm the first person in about 70 years. I built a brownstone from the ground up and just completed it about 2 years ago.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So you build this amazing, and I don't mean, but a cathedral for pizza, but you don't know how to make pizza.
No.
So so how did you learn how to make pizza?
This is how it started. There was a pizzeria a few blocks away, and I would actually hit up all the pizzerias. It's like, yeah, I'm having a party, for my daughter, and it's, can I buy doughs? So I would buy doughs,
Okay.
and then I'd take those doughs back to my pizzeria and just learn how to stretch them. Because that's where, that's the most important, the hardest part.
Mhm.
Where technique comes into play, is stretching those doughs. And I was like, damn, like how do these guys do this?
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept practicing on how to stretch dough. I said, once I get past that, I'm golden. That's the hardest part. Putting sauce and cheese on it is the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had to learn how to make that dough. And there was this pizzeria, Leonardo's. And as I was getting closer to the end, because basically what happened was it took me 2.5 years to build out the space.
So
I was doing it by myself.
and you're just paying rent.
Yeah,
To build out
Yeah, I
space.
managed. I figured it out.
Yep.
I
Okay.
figured it out how to
Mhm,
do it.
mhm.
We'll keep the story short.
Okay.
And that part will be in the book.
Yeah.
And I figured out. I got the space built out. I was like, all right, now I got to figure out this pizza thing. And I bought these doughs, and figured out the stretch. I was like, okay, this isn't too hard. And then I had to learn how to make pizza. And as this pizzeria Leonardo's was closing, I knew the family well. They sold me some of their equipment.
Okay.
And this is a story. This is part of this whole thing that no one ever speaks about. It was this guy Joe and his son Lenny. Oh God, I can't remember their last name. As they were closing, and I asked them, I was like, "Yo, can you show me how to make pizza?" And they showed me. They gave me a recipe, and and that's what I pretty much opened up with. And with more experience, I was like, I got to make it better. I got to make it better.
Mhm.
And I came up with, and I want to say about 2 weeks in, I nailed it. After being opened,
Wow.
and that's what you eat today.
So, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Um.
And I was totally, from day one. I'll never forget. And here I am. It took me 2.5 years to build out, and then I, learning the stretch, and I'm like, I gotta open this place. Like because what happened was, I forgot to mention this part. This big job at my company went on hold.
Okay.
And my boss told me, yeah, we're starting up 740 Park again in a month. I was like, okay, listen, let me get the pizzeria opened. I wasn't planning on being the pizza guy.
Right.
Hiring some pizza guys and let them make pizza. And I opened up as the pizza guy, thinking like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna go back to my 9 to 5 and own a pizzeria.
Yeah.
Nope. As soon as those doors opened, that was it. I never looked back.
Wow.
And I felt bad because I left those weren't my plans. It was just like it just morphed into what it is, within 2 weeks.
And this is 2006-ish or
Oh, 06.
06.
Yeah. Yeah, we just passed 15 years.
Wow.
October 9th.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I never forget, I was like, I had some dough made, and I was like, I had some cheese there. I was experimenting. And I called the landlord. I called up Rosemary. I was like, and the place, I wouldn't let anybody in.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't let anybody see what was in there. I had the windows covered with paper. And I think it was more out of curiosity that as soon as I took that paper down, people came. Like they were
Flocked.
coming home. I called Roy, says, Ro, do me a favor. Come down and sit in the restaurant, make it look like we're open. And I took the paper down and, cleaned the windows. She came down and I made her a pizza. And I want to say within an hour, the place was half full. Just people getting home from work like, hey, what's going on here? And then about an hour and a half later, every table was taken. And I was like, and I think I made maybe 14 pizzas. And I was like, fuck. Like, how the hell am I going to do? I made 14 pizzas, And I was like, holy shit. And then it just like, word spread like wildfire.
That's just like, so.
And I think.
That's crazy.
I think it was more about this beautiful space that I
Sure.
It was something out of another, it was like a
different era almost.
Yeah.
It took people back.
And I made sure that nothing looked like it was from today. I antiqued everything. I did all this stuff in the build out.
So you're building it out, and you don't really want to make pizza. But why did you go wood fired? Curiously.
Those weren't my intentions. But after I built the space out, I was like, I don't know if a gas oven's gonna fit this place.
Yeah.
I think a wood oven would look a lot nicer.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was it. So I went with that oven.
Now, did you build that oven yourself, or?
Yes. Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes. I hired a guy to do it.
Okay.
The guy that he sent to build it, only because I was so like busy doing everything else, and my masonry skills weren't that good. But this guy was like showing up at like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and those were my hours because the build out. I was working my 9 to 5.
That's right. You had your job.
I was doing my 9 to 5, and then going there at 8 to 4. Getting there at 4:30 and working till like 10, 11 every night, and on weekends because I was doing it all by myself. And this guy would show up at like 10 o'clock at night. He was like, "Yeah, just lock me in here." And he'd be in the bathroom for like, a half hour, and he was getting in there, getting high.
Just getting ready to go to work.
And I was like, "Yo, listen, this guy you sent to build my oven, either you come and do it or just talk me through it, and I'll do it." And I finished about 75% of it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So what is the name Lucali? What does that mean? Where did that come from?
Louis.
Okay.
It was Louis' Candy Store, and my daughter's name is Callie, Lucali.
Oh, okay.
And I'll never forget these Italian pizza guys. I'll never forget this. They did. They opened up. They were one of the first people to open up the Neapolitan pizza style in the neighborhood, and they came to try it out. And I was talking to them like Lucali, like where did you get that name from? And I told them. They were like, it also means like the local place to eat, locale.
I was just saying, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I never knew that. And it was just
that's very serendipitous.
Another one of those things. Like there are so many serendipitous stories. With Lucali. My first day with the key. Right? My first day with the key, walking into the restaurant by myself. Some guy creeps up behind me and tries to hustle me for money. Right? He walks up with the empty antifreeze can. Yo, buddy, my family's stuck in the car. I left my wallet home. I need gas. Can you help me out? And I look at this guy. I was like, yo, you kidding me? You trying to hustle me with that one? You know what I'm saying? He's like, yo, come on, man, help me out. And I was like, do you want a job? And he was like, what? I was like, do you want a job? And he was like, yeah. I was like, here's $40. Meet me here tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And he showed up. Now, I know I say I did the place by myself.
No, I know what you mean now.
This guy was with me the whole time. And, I became godfather to his 2 kids. And we're amazing friends today. And there's another crazy story behind that.
Come on now.
Okay, so
because this is not on Netflix. See, this
yeah,
is,
so
you know what I mean? This is not on any,
So, and that story continues to my opening of Miami. So I'm going to tell you the story. So this guy creeps up, and now we're in there working. My boys would come by and say bullshit with me as we were working. My brothers, And guys doing there together. We talk about sports.
Right.
And Tony, his name was Tony, the guy that was working with me. Every time we're talking about basketball, yeah, my father, best basketball player in East New York. He's a legend, in the schoolyards. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And Tony every now and then wouldn't show up for work. He had baby mama drama or whatever.
Right.
I'm not getting into that part of the story. So one day Tony doesn't show up to work, and doesn't show up for a week, and he finally gets in touch with me. And he's like, and him and his dad didn't talk, and he's like, "Yo, Mark, I can't come to work anymore." And I was like, "Why not?" And he's like, "My dad has cancer." And we kind of rekindled, and I'm going to spend his, Tony, forgive me for saying this, I didn't believe him. I thought he was just like, whatever he was doing, and give me some lame excuse. Sure enough, 3 weeks go by, and I get the phone call. His dad passed. So he was not lying. And I apologize for not believing you, Tony. And, I go in the closet, get my black suit on, go out to East New York, go to this funeral. 1,000 people at this funeral. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Who's your dad?
Right. I go up to the coffin and I say my prayer, and he introduces me to his mom and his sisters. And you know how they put up the easel with the photos on it?
Yep.
And I see, there's a high school basketball picture. And, that was it. I spent the night with Tony there at the wake, and I go home. 2 days later, I get a phone call from my kid brother. He's like, "Yo, you read the New York Times today?" I was like, I don't read the New York Times. What are you doing reading the New York Times? Because you don't read it either. We read the sports page in the Daily News. We go from the comics to the sports page, right? And he was like, "Yo, by the New York Times, you're never going to believe this. Tony's father's in it, in the obituary section." I was like, "What?" And I grabbed the New York Times, and this had I think it was in, I saved it. I still have it. I think this was in 06.
Okay.
And there's a story about this. Tony's dad, Anthony Jackson. You know who Anthony Jackson is?
I've heard that name. He's like he's like Rucker Park.
Nope.
No.
Lead scorer for St. John's University. Right? And I think this took. I don't know the dates, whether it was 60s or 70s. There was that whole point shaving scandal.
Oh yeah.
And it goes on to tell the story how Tony's dad was involved in that. But what happened was he was never found guilty. I think Tony told me this, and I think it even Tony told me the story. What happened? His dad received the phone call like 2:00 in the morning. Woke him up. He answers the phone, and some guy's like, "Yo, we need to meet. You to meet us, here at such and such a time." And now the scandal is out, so he thought it was one of his friends pranking him. It was a joke, and hung up the phone. Went about his business. They reach out, and the investigators, I guess, and he got in trouble. He was never found. There's no mention of him shaving points, but he did not report that phone call.
So he's caught up in it, yeah.
And it destroyed his career.
Yep.
And that's the Anthony Jackson story. Fast forward to 2013. I'm on a plane flying down to Miami to open up Miami Lucali. And as I'm on the plane, New York Times channel, JetBlue, is on, and it is the opening night for the Brooklyn Nets. First game. Right? And, there's the reporter standing in front talking to another reporter, and they're speaking, and they're talking about the best 3 basketball players to come out of Brooklyn. Right? And I think it was one of the King brothers, Bernard King. And,
Bernard King.
I think it might have
brother named too.
I don't know. Maybe Carmelo.
Okay.
Anthony, I think, was one. And then they go, Anthony Jackson. And I was like, what? And here they are talking about Tony's dad. I met Tony,
Yep.
going into my place for the first time. And now I'm on my way to open up my restaurant And I just thought it was this.
Oh my
weird,
God, that's crazy, man!
coincidence.
Wow, man.
And I was like, Anthony, did he just say Anthony Jackson? I was like,
You don't play the lottery on the regular, man?
I mean, did you ever hear of Anthony Jackson?
No,
No one knows about,
and I know why now because of the point shaving.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy. I literally watched a Netflix documentary about point shaving last week, bro. It's really just so you know, in the '90s at ASU, and I was like, and when you said that, now and this was in the '90s, I was like, wow, yeah, like point shaving was rampant in the '60s and '70s because there was no internet. It was really hard. I mean, but
organized crime was running.
Yeah, and these guys, but like this guy, this poor kid, because he was stupid, got lured for like $50,000. He lost millions.
Yeah.
He was going to be a first round draft pick.
Yep.
And I mean, this dude was lighting up. He lit up like UCLA for like 49. This kid was crazy at ASU, and I'm like, I know I don't remember him because the point shaving it just kind of went away. But that's just your stories are just crazy how connected you are to everything. So you said like within like 3 hours the place was packed.
Full.
Okay.
Not packed. Full.
Okay. Full. Well, full. Yeah, okay.
Every table was taken.
Listen, that's pretty impressive. You've been around this game for a while.
But again, it wasn't about the pizza. Like people thought I was crazy. Think about this. I signed a lease and I'm working on this place for 2.5 years.
Yep.
People like, I'm opening a pizzeria. They thought I was crazy for me. Like, you never made pizza before. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. And then once, I pulled that paper down and they looked through that window, I guess they wanted to come in, even if they weren't hungry. They just wanted to see what this dining room was all about. It was more about the dining room, I think, in the beginning.
But you did say this. But you said you were planning to do it for like 2 weeks, but you could never look back. So I guess people just kept coming back, right?
Yeah, and I'll never forget it. I think on the second day, I was like, I called my friend Mike. I was like, yo, Mike, can you, speak to your daughter? I need someone here to help me. Because he had mentioned to me, when you open up, if you need someone, my daughter, looking for a job. And I was like, I called him second day, because I was just like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to make pizza. And me, I'm a nut. I was literally breaking the tomatoes open by hand and scraping the seeds out, throwing the seeds out and throwing the whole tomato and then putting it I didn't know about, what do they call those things? The
rice.
ricers.
Ricer, yeah.
Or you can, I didn't know about any of this. And she came in and then I'll never, maybe 3-4 weeks in, word spread like wildfire, and I couldn't understand how. And I didn't know there were these blogs.
Right.
I knew nothing about the internet or the power of it.
Right.
Chowhound.
Yep.
At the time, and I'll never forget. Literally, I remember I had gotten I think it was my wife at the time. I asked her to come and yo, I need help. There was no order. There was no system. I didn't know stuff like this.
You didn't have a POS system?
I remember her closing the door and putting her back like this to hold the door shut. Holding the crowd back.
Right.
And people were angry. Because, again, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know, the order. All right, this, people were outside. And, they tell them, I want to order 2 pizzas. I was like, all right, yeah, 5 minutes. How long would it take to make 2 pizzas, right? And next thing I know, people are just, angry because they're waiting. They were told 5 minutes, and it's been 2 hours.
Right.
And, I waited 2 hours, and I burnt their pizza on the bottom. I didn't even know to check the bottom.
Right.
In the beginning. Top looked good. I assume the bottom was good, too. And it just, it just snowballed.
Oh, my God.
And I was figuring it out.
I love this. You literally are figuring it out as you go along.
Yeah.
That's that whole, it's like what they say, building your parachute on the way down,
Yeah. Yeah, that's I've never heard anyone use that. Use that term. Don't worry.
So one thing, your restaurant, and first of all, yeah, I had this question. I did a little video on the way in, and so, like you said, I'm not a chef because you have the reverence for people who.
Yeah.
So you the pizza man. What is it? What is there? Is there a term? Because like in wine there's a sommelier and there's a barista if you work at a coffee shop. Like,
Yeah,
is there
yeah.
like a fancy pizza? Are you just the pizza man, the pizza guy? Like,
Pizza man, I don't even like when people call me a pizzaiola.
right? Okay,
You know,
so pizza.
pizza. That's what I grew up with.
Yeah,
Like the word margarita. Never heard it before. Like when I went into these pizza shops, it said plain pie, $10. Pepperoni pie,
right.
and this is
11.
and yeah, whatever
It was
it
like a
was.
dollar more
Yeah,
back in the
yeah,
day.
and like so I always called it a plain pie.
Right,
And that's what we all called it.
right,
Like me, all my, everybody. If you grew up in Brooklyn, you walked in, you didn't say, "Yo, let me get a margarita."
right.
No
And I'm
such.
from Jersey. There was no margarita pizza.
Yeah,
You just go get a slice, and
yeah,
it had.
yeah. Until we had this wave of these Neapolitan pizzaiolas, come to New York back in God, what was it, the 2000?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you started seeing these artisanal,
Right.
I'm making those little rabbit ear things.
Right. The
This
quote unquote, yeah.
this artisanal, Neapolitan style pizza, but a lot of people even come in like, today they're like, and they X the menu because we recite it. We don't have written menus, and yeah, plain pie, $26. And they're like, what do you mean a plain pie? Is there sauce on there? Is there cheese on there? I'm like, yeah, that's the plain pie. I was like, oh, you mean a margarita? Yeah, okay, a margarita.
That's so funny. Yeah, let's talk about the pizzolas and the was the attack of the killer Neapolitan pizzerias that happened. I was in my own little research. Well, I'd seen you on Ugly Delicious, years ago, but I watched it again when we knew you were coming on. That whole organization that certifies true Neapolitan pizza. I mean, like, I was watching it for the second time. I was like, man, what a racket! Like they're selling ovens, they're selling cheese, like they're selling tomatoes, like, and if you don't have that, it's not Neapolitan
Yes.
pizza.
Yes.
And I mean, and you share a little bit, but like, I like your attitude on this. Like what is it that you think makes your pizza so? I mean, I fucking grew up eating pizza. Like, there was this one corner in my town where like there was 3 pizzerias. There was Tony's, there was Tuzio's, and there was Nunzio's. I'm a Nunzio's guy, but literally they walk across the street. It was like a little triangle. Like there was so much pizza in my town. Like, people could literally have a pizzeria next to each other, and thin crust, like yours. Like, so when you see, like, when I was watching that, like that Neapolitan with that big kind of puffy lip, like yours is thin. Like, how did you end up with the like that true thin crust all the way around, just nice fold?
How did I wind up with that?
Yeah, like, because do you still roll with a wine bottle?
Yeah, inexperience. Like I told you, I didn't know how to make pizza. I didn't know the science behind the dough. That's something I think 3 weeks in. Joe, when he taught me, he was like, yeah, you fill the bucket up to this line.
Yeah.
And okay, I filled the bucket, which was pretty much the top of the bucket, and me walking over to the dough mixer with this full pail of bucket, maybe a little spilled on the floor, and I didn't have enough water in the dough one night.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very tough, and now I have this line, and I have all these orders to fill, and I can't stretch this dough. The hydration is way too low. And I remember calling my brother. I was like, yo, you got to get over here with Grandma's rolling pin. And he just took too long, and I saw a wine bottle, and I improvised and started rolling the dough out because it would not stretch. I couldn't stretch it by hand. And it stuck.
And you stay, and that's your dough recipe.
And it stuck.
Yeah. So, like, you were talking a few moments ago about how the blogs and started kind of just blowing up the restaurant. was do you think the blogs, like, what became, how did it become this BYOB mecca?
Um, again, me growing up in these pizzerias, again, I was like, we drank either like, the that orange grape fountain,
Yeah.
the side by
Yeah,
sides.
yeah, yeah.
We had Pepsi, we had Coke, we had a quarter water
Right.
with our pizza. Never in my life did I ever walk into a pizzeria and see wine.
Right.
Any slice shop in,
Right.
like I says, pizzerias like mine pretty much did not exist in New York. They were these slice shops, but you did have um, Lombardi's, Grimaldi's,
Okay.
um, Patsy's,
Yeah.
Arturo's, and maybe John's on Bleecker, right? These old school coal oven places.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. There was a handful of them left. And, everyone transferred throughout the years to these slice joints. And did you recall any of them selling wine?
No.
No. And I never went to those fancy places,
No, and
Grimaldi's.
I went to Grimaldi's, I think, when first time was like 97 or something.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I never went to those
Patsy's.
places,
Yeah.
I stayed within I was in my box,
Yeah.
growing up. And so I was like, what do I need wine for? Well, I'm not selling wine. And, so now here I am making pizza, and people like, hey, do you mind if we bring a bottle of wine? I was like, no. All right. So, and then, like, I was like, I didn't even know what BYOB was, and they started, and I became known for best BYOB restaurant in New York. And I didn't even know there was a list for it or a category, I didn't know about Zagat and all these things,
Yeah.
I was a jock. From jock, I went to construction, and I ate at the local spots. I didn't know about these food blogs. I was like, and I started reading. I was like, these people need to get a life. Well, what's going on here? They go home and they write about the fact that I didn't have anchovies. I was like, I found it weird.
Right. Right.
Little did I know, here we are today, and everyone's a food blogger.
Oh, everyone's a food blogger. Oh my God. So do you, like, what was the first critic came in? Because they don't announce, like.
Well, that's again, very. God, I think I may have been open a week or two, and it was late night, and it was just me and Missy, that first girl, and place wasn't that. It was late night. I had maybe 4 tables. I had 4 tables in the restaurant. It was about 9 o'clock at night on maybe a Monday, and Missy was serving one table, and I had made a calzone, and I said, what, just let me bring it over to the table. And I walked over to the table, and I dropped the calzone on my way back. She goes, yo, you gave the calzone to the wrong person, to the wrong table. I was like, oh, shit. So I go over to the table, and I says, guys, listen, I apologize. I gave you a calzone to them. I'm going to make you one right away. And he was like, okay, great. And I made his calzone, and I brought it over to the table. And I didn't have anything else left to make. So I make my rounds. I'm trying to get some feedback from people.
Mm-hmm.
And I stop by this one table, table 8, and no, that was it, right? And then, I brought the guy the calzone, and he was like, hey, listen, I write a food column. Do you mind if I give you a call tomorrow when you're not busy, and interview you? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I was like, it's like, I'm thinking like, these sitcoms I used to watch. Like, I remember there was this one specific sitcom with, Three's Company. I was like, this guy's trying to get a free meal out of me.
Right.
This doesn't happen. And I was like, yeah, sure. I says, all right, I'll give you my number. And I wrote my number down, and I gave him my number, and that was that. And now I hit up the next table, and I see this guy, and I asked him how his pizza was, and he goes, wow, this pizza's really good. And he goes, but do you have a hot spot in your oven? I was like, what? And he lifts up his pizza, and you can see the pie was cooked perfectly on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
One half, the other half was burnt to a crisp.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know what I'm doing
Right.
at this point. And I was like, I felt bad. And I was like, and I don't know, like, that's me, I'm not doing it because of a Yelp review, because I didn't know this stuff even existed
Right.
at the time.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I feel terrible. Let me make you a new pie. He's like, no, that's not. I says, no, I insist. He goes, okay. He goes, do you mind if I take a few pictures? And I was like, I found this weird. Like, you want to take pictures of me? I was like, okay. So I got back there, and I'm making him his pizza, and he starts taking pictures. And I was like, why are you taking pictures of me? He goes, well, I write a food blog. And again, I was like, oh, okay. I don't know what a blog is.
What's a blog?
What's a blog?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, which one? I asked him.
Right.
He goes, it was Adam Kubin from Slice, New York.
Okay.
I was like, okay.
All right. Okay, Adam.
All right.
Yep.
But there's another table sitting there, right? And they were like, oh, my God, you're Adam from Slice? They're like, we're Peter and Katie from Chowhound. We read your blog all the time. And I'm like,
what the fuck's going on?
You're going to make me curse.
Yeah.
You cursed for me.
You're like, what the fuck?
I'm like, WTF, Well, WTF I don't think existed back in 06 just yet.
No, exactly.
Right.
So you picked up some
yeah, so I was like,
internet lingo.
I'll never forget, like, someone kept texting me, lol. And finally I asked, I was like, yo, when I saw them, I was like, why do you keep writing lol? And they're like, what are you talking about? I says, every time you write a text, you write lol. They're like, no, that's laugh out loud.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Like, okay. So, back, where were we? At
Chowhound
and I was
Slice,
like,
New York, yeah.
Yeah, all right. And I was like, okay, whatever. And that was it. And I continued, and sure enough, I go home, I go to sleep, I wake up the next morning to a phone call, and it's this guy that was in my restaurant the night before. And he interviews me. I was like, okay, and the interview was over. I was like, wow, he was real. He wasn't looking for a free meal. And, I was like, yeah, what, who do you write for? He was like, oh, we're Rob and Patronite. And we write for the New York Magazine. I was like, okay, whatever.
Wow.
And I went about my business, and I see my boy Joe. And I tell him, and, he's kind of like the smart guy and, the educated, more sophisticated guy in the group. I was like, yeah, I got to, he's like, yo, your pizzerias, everyone's talking. I was like, yeah. I says, I did an interview today. And he was like, with who? I says, New York Magazine. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, New York Magazine. He was like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, no. And, like, he can't absorb this.
Right.
Because here, like, he thought I was crazy for opening a pizzeria. He was like, yo, you're opening a pizzeria. You don't know shit about
now you're in New York Magazine.
Pizza. And I was like, yeah, what's the big deal? It's fucking, it's New York Magazine. It's not like the, Daily News. Because that was the paper I read every day,
Exactly.
That to me was,
right.
The holy grail. I wanted to be in the Daily News. And, he's like, Mark, this is a big deal. And then, we were in a coffee shop, and he pulls out a New York Magazine that was sitting in the car, and he shows me, look, they write about restaurants. Restaurant, and he's teaching me. And, so I was in New York. And then I don't know how it came about. The Secret Diner.
Okay.
And November, maybe third week in November, or maybe second week in November, I get a phone call. And it was some guy who wanted me to do an interview for the New York Times. And again, I'm like, yeah. And, this guy interviews me. And it was Peter Meehan.
Mm-hmm.
And November, I think, third week in November, a New York Times article comes out. And I was like, who the fuck reads the New York Times?
No.
You want to hear crazy, quick crazy story. Growing up, I worked in these soda shops.
Right.
I never worked in movies. I worked at Pete's.
Okay.
It was to compete because they used to make 8 creams and compete against each other. And then it went on to be Pete Paw's candy store. And I remember, growing up in this blue-collar neighborhood, I had to put the Sunday news together.
Right.
On Saturday night.
Yep.
And, and it was like 3 feet high, 8 feet long, the pile. And there were like 5 New York Times that I had to put together.
Right, exactly.
You know,
'Cause
that's
you weren't, there wasn't soul in your neighborhood. People didn't read
no,
it. They
no.
read
It
the
was a
Daily
very
News. Yeah.
blue collar
Yeah,
neighborhood. That's
yeah.
what we grew up on. You know.
That's so. And this, you've been open like this is all like in the first couple months, right? This is just like
Yeah. I opened up '06, and you know, I opened up October 9th, '06, and if I'm not mistaken, November 20th, which is 26 days. I'm in the New York Times.
What's even crazier though?
And wait, I think my mic. Am I still here?
No, you're good. Yeah.
Um,
It's no social media back then.
no.
Like
I remember I used to go to my mom's house because she had a computer. I didn't even have a computer.
I love it.
I used to go to my mom, like, and I'm Googling Chowhound. And I'm like, these people are talking about me, you know? And, and that was it. I never looked back.
Dude. So then, who was the first celebrity to walk in the door?
Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett. Okay. Was he in town working on a movie or
I
something?
have no idea.
Yeah.
Didn't know who he was. All I remember was he came in, and I had all the young neighborhood girls working for me as waitresses,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And they started going crazy.
And no. But what I realized was, next thing I know, I got about 30 girls in front of my restaurant screaming, waiting for this guy to come out. And you know, and that's I was like, what's going on? And I see like one of my waitresses texting the girls outside, and what she did was she called up, and her friends, you know, and it just spread like wildfire. And then like there's a bunch of little Josh Hartnett groupies in front of my restaurant,
Right.
and I was like, okay, I didn't know, but I was smart enough to know, or just my feeling on the whole thing was, I don't think this guy wants this.
Right.
And then I made a rule. Listen, when people are in this restaurant, you don't call anybody. And I started. Next one was the guy from The Sopranos. The guy with the ponytail. I can't remember his name. The guy from Italy.
Yeah.
You know the guy.
Yeah.
That
Who
Carmela
had
fell in love with.
had the affair with Carmela. Yeah.
Right. And then the third one was Holly Berry. And I was like,
And you knew her though.
yeah, I knew her. I knew her. Yes. And I'll never forget that night when she like came walking into my restaurant. I was like, what? Like, what is she doing in this little hole in the wall in downtown Brooklyn?
And then like it's just it's amazing. And then so, you know, we were talking before we got into the podcast, and you know, I think David Beckham comes a lot. He seems to have a friendship with him. Like, how did he happen? I mean, I guess someone told him, or just working it out.
I got a phone call from. I happen to know a lot of guys in the security industry.
Okay.
You know, from all the celebs coming in.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
And one of them called up. One of their guys may have had you know, was taking care of David while he was in New York, and they called me, and he came in, and you know, an amazing man. He really is. He really is so down to earth and just like chill and gracious and unpretentious. Everything about him, and you would never think it. You know. I mean, not that you would never think it. Like, you know, with everybody that comes to, like, again, you know, this is living in a box. You know, like in my neighborhood, if you played with a soccer ball, you got beat up. Yeah. You know, you play baseball, football, basketball, hockey, that's it. And not realizing that it is the most popular sport in the world.
It is the world sport.
You know, and they are the most famous athletes. And
yeah, people don't. I mean, the money they make is staggering because it's a worldwide sport.
I don't know about that end of it, you know. You know, but and I was like, you know, because the people that were really getting harassed. You know, I got Paul McCartney sitting in my restaurant. I got Al Pacino sitting in my restaurant. No one's harassed. These soccer players get tortured.
Wow.
And you know, and just David will just pop up and like, hey, just wanted a pizza. Not even cold sometimes. Like, mind sitting me while I eat? I was like, me? you know? Um, yeah, he's that kind of guy.
And then I know Jay and Beyonce love your place a lot.
Two lovely people. Uh, you know, been there at least 300 times.
Mm.
And over the years, I mean, they've been coming since I think '07.
Mm.
Yep. And again, super chill. They walk in, they sit shoulder to shoulder. They don't want special attention. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like sometimes they'll do a buyout.
Right.
But like they're sitting elbow to elbow
Mm-hmm.
with the people in the restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
and no one bothers them.
Right. That's what's kind of
I mean,
cool
I
about
would-
New York. I think most people,
Yeah.
we know how to chill.
Yep.
When someone,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. And like you see J and B would come in and like Jay nods to everyone as he walks through the dining room, says hello. I've seen him give a sometimes they're sitting there for 2-3 hours, sometimes they're there for 40 minutes. And he'll have like a $2,000 bottle of wine
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't finish, hand it off to the table next to them. They'll bring in dessert because we don't do dessert. Pass it around the dining room. Don't get me wrong. People have been a few incidents,
Mm-hmm.
but when you think the overall, for the most part, people are just super chill about it.
Yeah.
A lot of times they don't even realize they're in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People are so focused, the place is so dimly lit,
Right.
and they realize when they leave.
Right. It's like, oh
They're
shit.
They're like, because you'll see like this big SUV just like pull up, and they'll just get in. They're like, the doors swing open and security comes out, and even with the when people do go over the table, they're super polite about it, but they just like I'll never forget there was this one kid. They were leaving, and J and B were there sitting at the little kid, and kid comes back. As they were leaving, J and B were walking in, and the rule is like they're super friendly to everybody, but when they're having dinner, they just want to be like normal people and have their dinner, and not be interrupted. You know, and the kid comes up to the door, and I happen to be standing there. He was like, and he comes back with a pen and paper, and he's like, can I go in there and get Beyonce's autograph? And I'm like, oh shit, but I don't know what to do. And I turned to one of the security guards that was sitting outside eating. I was like, Romero,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, no, just wait till their dinner's over with, and they'll be more than happy to, And the little kid was like, but my parents are leaving.
But I gotta go
home. And he was like, he brought him in over to the table, and this little kid got an autograph.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And they were more than happy to do it.
That's awesome. So with all this, like, success, well deserved, and I think the reason why you've been is because you built it. You put so much into building it. Like literally, like Rome wasn't built in a day. Lucali's was not built in a day. But when it opened up, it was right. The time was right, and it was ready. And so, what prompted you? Just because you just opened a slice place. So is that like a nod to your youth to have a slice place?
Something I've always wanted to do. Lucali was originally supposed to be that. That's the pizza I grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
And I was tinkering around, like my spare time with that, and it just again leaves fell into my lap, and we put it together. It's still not opened.
Okay.
That pizza that for whatever reasons, I'm not getting into the story right now. It's another long story, and I don't want to take up all your time with this story. But I have yet to get in there and make pizza.
Okay.
You know, there is pizza in there right now.
Mhm.
It's the work of Aminu and Adam. Adam, I apologize, I can't remember your last name. And they're just in there right now making, you know, Adam's pizza.
Mhm.
You know, Adam's from the Bread Lab,
Okay.
a very renowned baker. And you know, I've been really tied up with a lot of things that I have not been able to get in there and do what I want to do.
Sure.
So you know, I'm probably going to have a grand opening. I would venture to say maybe within the next 3 weeks,
Okay. Cool.
and get in there and really, you know, start making the pizza that I grew up on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up at the top of our, what was best pizza you've had that's not yours? So I know, like, I went to college in New Haven, and so, but I never had New Haven pizza till I was much later. You know, with, and I know you took the pilgrimage up to New Haven, and you hung out at Pepe's, and then you also went to Italy. What's like the best pie you've had that's not yours?
You know what? I'm not going to answer this question.
Come on,
I'm
man.
not. I love. It's like when people ask me, "What's my favorite restaurant?"
Okay.
I go to restaurants. I mean, they're out there, and some of them I do go to, but I kind of go to a restaurant for a particular dish.
Got it.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I go to pizzerias for particular pizza. You know,
Okay.
if I want a certain grandma slice, I'm going to my boy Frankie.
Yeah.
That's pizza. If I want an old school traditional slice, I'm going to either Luigi's, Viscotti's, or Joe's. You know, it's just, and you know, I'm just,
Got it.
it's like that. You know, if I want that high end traditional slice, I'm going to DeFara's.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
all depends on what I'm in the mood for. You know, I love all these versions,
Right.
but all these versions are predominantly offshoots of traditional New York style pizza. I'm not really big into the artisanal, you know, Neapolitan. I'm a New York guy.
Yeah.
New York pizza.
Listen, simple works better for me, man.
Yeah.
Just be good. Just get. And you said this. I like what you said. You said just get really good with the basics. Just do something simple really well.
Yep.
You know?
That's it.
Yep. And you're knocking it out the park, man. This was fun. And some point we'll have to have you back because you got a fun story, bro.
Yeah. We're done.
we're unfortunately.
You know, I always get nervous doing these things. You know, because I'm like, you know, what am I going to talk about? I'm a yes no guy. You know, I never wrote an essay you know, going through school, high school. I was like, you know, Civil War. Abe Lincoln was trying to free the slaves. The North fought the South. Done. That's, you know, that was me. I know. I needed another 80 words. You know.
All right, everybody. This is your boy MJ. I was here with Mark Iacono of Lucali's in Brooklyn. Amazing story, amazing guy. He's he's so humble and just a good spirit and just a artisan. Like I just have got that theme from you. Thanks for being here. Until next time, everybody. Cheers to the Mavericks, the philosophers, the deep thinkers, and to all you wine drinkers. Peace.
It was a